Well, happy Friday, everyone. Hope you all had a fantastic week. Again, I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey of Let's Discuss, learning things about one another. Regrettably, you get to learn some things about me today. Um, Hope that's not too bad of a thing. But I actually had a comment from a dear friend of mine from elementary school that suggested our topic for today, which I've kind of changed a little bit from his suggestion, but it's pretty much, you know, um, he he suggested that maybe we should discuss, growing up in Plano, Texas. Uh, Obviously, that is where Joe and I grew up. I actually moved to Plano, Texas back in 1976 from St. Charles, Missouri. I was a Midwest boy before then got to Texas, and like I told you before, I have my green card now, so I can stay here in the state. Um, but growing up in Plano has been a very interesting experience. I actually, a couple of years ago, moved back to the area that I grew up in, which is right on the edge of Plano. I went to Plano schools, graduated from beautiful and amazing Plano East Senior High back in 1986. Ooh, shows you how old I am, right? Um, but you know, uh, childhood has great memories for me, and it was a great experience. And I remember as a kid being in Plano. Well, I first moved to Plano, and then moved just on the edge of town. Lived in Plano itself for a year while my parents built the house um, that they retired in. Um, but back in 1976, Plano was no one knew where Plano was. It was so funny because you could drive past Plano, you wouldn't even know it. I think the population was maybe around 30,000, and and our football team, which if you live in Texas, you know this is a big deal. Our football team was winning state championships, but nobody knew where Plano was. So I actually have a T-shirt in Wildcat, the Plano Wildcats colors that says "Where the hell is Plano?" Because you could drive right down Highway 75 and past Plano, you wouldn't even know it, right? Um, Today, Plano is closing in very quickly on 300,000 people. I think the population was about 288, 290 a year ago. And yeah, in very well may have surpassed 300,000 now. It is a very different place. And growing up in Plano, got to experience a lot of interesting things as a kid. I mean, my childhood was, started off when I was young. We would have to go to way into Dallas if we wanted to go to Target, or if you went to the mall, you went to North Park or Valley View. Those were the closest malls for those of you that are here in Dallas. Um, and we've already gone through the life cycle of a mall with Collin Creek. Built that in the early 80s, and they've pretty much torn most of it down now and are redeveloping it. Um, so, you know, different experiences. It's really it's really interesting to look back on my childhood and see how it shaped and formed the person that I am today, the father that I am today. I think I mentioned to you all in the introductory video for Let's Discuss, I came from a very, um, the old nuclear family, right? Um, I am the oldest. I have one sister. She is almost exactly 4 years younger than I am. Um, my parents were together until my mother's passing 13 years ago. And, we had a very traditional family, at least in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up as a kid. That was considered a very traditional family. My mom, though, I mean, where we varied, and I guess this is kind of part of the discussion, is what was your childhood like? How 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 were you brought up? What were your experiences? How did they shape who you are? And I know when I talk to other people about my upbringing and my childhood, um, I know that I have some um, preconceived notions of what other people had as an experience because I think about my childhood and I think, well, they had the same support systems and they had the same, um, influences, support, uh, you know, um, when I say support, sometimes support doesn't always feel like support, right? So when you did something wrong, there were also punishments and repercussions for kind of straying across the line, which I might have been guilty of doing a few times. And so, because of our upbringing and the way that we experienced our childhood, it shapes the way that we act as adults. Um, on one hand, my upbringing was very traditional. I had the mom and dad; they were happily married. That doesn't mean that they didn't have their disagreements, but they set a an almost unobtainable example of a married couple. They didn't go to bed angry at one another. They loved and supported one another. They did not agree on everything, but they were willing to discuss it. They didn't take things personal. They knew that if the other one didn't agree with them, there was a reason for that. And maybe that's where I get some of this idea of let's discuss because my parents would actually discuss it, right? I know not everybody had that great experience. Um, there were some ways that we weren't traditional as well. My father, when I was growing up, worked in the fragrance and cosmetic business, and he was either the regional or national sales manager for a lot of different companies that you may know. And he traveled. He traveled 5 days a week. And he would leave Monday morning, sometimes before I would even head off to school. And our family's normal routine on Friday was my sister and I would come home from school. We would do our homework. We would have dinner with my mom. And then we would drive to the airport and sit around the Braniff terminal and wait for my dad to fly back in so that all of us could be there to welcome him home. Um, as much as that was maybe a frustrating thing for a young man to have to spend his Friday afternoons doing, I look back on it now and I think about how wonderful that was for my dad to have us waiting at the end of the jet bridge when he would get off those planes, knowing that he was loved and supported and missed by his family. And I remember every night at about 9 o'clock, he would call. We would say our prayers with him over the phone and tell him about our day at school. And he never missed. He never missed a phone call home. So even though it wasn't quite traditional where my dad was home playing catch with me every day, he was still involved every single day. He never missed a day. And my mom was that mom that does, she volunteered at school. She worked in the school library when I was in elementary. She would go on the field trips with us. And then once my sister and I started getting a little bit older, um, my mom, though she was still she had this incredibly important job of maintaining the household. She actually started businesses. So she had a environmental room fragrance company. Basically, we had a company that you would put oils, different scented oils on these rings that would go in your light bulb, and it would, I mean, this is in the day before Febreze and all of these spray air fresheners. And she had that company for 20 plus years. I remember packaging that stuff every weekend. That's how I would earn some spending money, is package stuff for Hallmark stores. And she had sales reps around the country that sold these things. She also did wallpaper contracting, where she and my aunt started a business doing wallpapering. So guess what? I got to learn how to wallpaper. So, my mom was a housemaker, but she was also in business. Well, that's not exactly the nuclear family. It's not the Leave It to Beaver thing. And so, I had some different experiences. I mean, it's the reason why my sister has grown up to be such a strong, independent woman, because she saw the things that my mom did. Um, and, my mom cut her own path in the world. My sister does that. I'd like to think that I do that, and I certainly would like to think that I pass that on to my children. Um, so there's probably more than you wanted to know about me, so I throw it out to you. What was your experience growing up? What were the things that formulated how you act and interact with others as an adult? And as a father, um, you know, I have to question all the time, am I instilling those same things, or at least the good things that I experienced as a child? Did I pass those on to my kids? I mean, my youngest is going to be a sophomore in college. And so, the seeds have been planted, and it is what it is now. And so I hope that I passed on those things. Um, Hard work, perseverance, doing the right thing. Um, but most of all, love of family, supporting family. Um, I also, this comes back to the let's discuss piece. Okay. I know, like I said, it gives me preconceived notions about how other people handle adulthood, how they handle raising their children. Um, I, a lot of my close friends also had very supportive parents. And I look back on it now, and a lot of the people that I associated with also had those same backgrounds. And I am sure there was a level of comfort for me in my relationships with them and their families because I saw a lot of the same things that I experienced, right? Um, but not everybody was as fortunate as we are or were. Both of my parents are gone now. A lot of my friends are at that age where they're losing their parents as well. And so, it makes you look at the people that we do business with every day and the people that we interact with every day. And, you wonder, did they have the same great experiences that I had or that you had growing up? Uh, like I said, Plano's a big place now. It's not a little town that people miss. It's a big city. It's a multi-centric city. It's a multicultural city. All of those things are fantastic. And, you know, I feel that the childhood that I had made me more open to all of those changes and makes me feel very comfortable moving back to the Plano area as an adult. Would love to see my children live in the Plano area again because of maybe it's comfort levels. I don't know. But at the end of the day, are we being appreciative enough of the people around us that maybe didn't have the same experiences that we had growing up? You can you can look at plenty of statistics. I actually saw an interview with one of the candidates for who's running for nomination for the 2024 presidential election, and he had some commentary about families or the disintegration of the the traditional family and how that equates to some of the discord that we see in our society today. And it's kind of hard to argue about that. When you come from a family that is full of love and support, you can't imagine um, casting dispersions on other people and being cruel to other people and not wanting to get along with other people. And and I wonder if maybe there is truth to the disintegration of the traditional family and how that affects the way people act as adults. Maybe it's because they don't have that ingrained ability to love or to trust or to respect others because they didn't have that growing up. Um, and maybe we should think about that instead of reacting as though our friends or our coworkers are disrespecting us or being mean or thoughtless or cruel. Maybe we should think about the fact that they didn't have the great experiences that we might have had. I know it's something that I have to do, and it's something that I try to work on a daily basis. Instead of going, why would you possibly do that? Um, Maybe I should spend a little bit more time asking, what are your thoughts around trust? And what are your thoughts around respect for others? And what's your experience been? Because it might tell me a lot about who they are, why they do what they do, And maybe by discussing those things, maybe I can help them find trust. Maybe I can help them find comfort. Um, and I don't know. I think this is a topic we need to discuss some more because, quite frankly, there's a whole lot of unhappiness out there, and there doesn't have to be. Um, but if all you've known is fear, if all you've known and you've never known trust, you've never known sacrifice, you've never known that comfort of that family unit that always has your back and they're always there to support you, probably makes you have a very different look on life and society. So I'd love to have your feedback. Love to know more about what your experiences were growing up, even if it wasn't in Plano, Texas. Um, and let's discuss it. Maybe we can find some common ground that we in turn can go out and express in society, um, that helps other people find peace because there's a whole lot of unrest and no one wants that. So let's see what we can do to help people find peace. Until our next discussion, please give me your feedback. I'd love to know what you think. Did I go too far astray, Joe? Let me know that too. But I appreciate your support on this journey and look forward to discussing some more about this. Take care. Have a great weekend, and God bless.